Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, my fine friends. Welcome to the 23rd episode of Season 13, the Tom Petty Project podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Brown, and this is the only weekly podcast that digs into the entire Tom Petty catalogue, song by song, album by album, and includes conversations with musicians, fans, and people connected with Tom along the way. Okay, first of all, thanks for the feedback on my conversation with Sam Krishnan, aka By Lily. A few people direct messaged me, said they really enjoyed it. And I hope you went and listened to his song My Hero, which is his tribute to Tom, and that you took some time to check out his debut EP, Voice Notes. It's a wonderful, interesting, diverting listen. If you haven't given it a spin yet, go do that. A couple of other housekeeping items before we head over to social media. Obviously, we're heading into Christmas, so Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. Hope everyone gets time to spend with their family. Hope you all get some time off. And I have episodes to keep you going if you need a break from turkey, family, football, whatever's going on in your house that you need a break from. So first of all, I'm almost finished writing the episode that I talked about like 2 or 3 weeks ago, discussing why Freddie Mercury is so important to me. And if I get that finished tomorrow, which I'm hoping and thinking I probably will, I'll be recording that and dropping it on Christmas Day. On Boxing Day is another Artist Conversation series episode with the ferociously talented Matt Burke of the band Have Love Will Travel, another band I saw down in Gainesville who were actually a last-minute stand-in and blew the roof off with one of the tightest sets I've seen in years. Then, of course, Matt's answers to my 10 questions will come right after that. Hopefully you don't get sick of my voice over the holidays, as I have another Artist Conversation episode dropping next week as well as a bonus, but more on that later. Without further ado, let's take a look at the poll for last week's song, You and Me. As you'd expect, this one came back overwhelmingly positive, with 67% of you rating it a top shelf 10 out of 10, with the remaining 33% putting it in the 7 to 9 category, and no outliers going for a 6 or lower, which is great to see. Well done, guys. Over on Facebook, Connie Clevenger Withers, I hope that's pronounced right, Connie. Clevenger? Let me know, who I was lucky to chat with down in Gainesville, left the following comment. A very moving tune with lots of heart. The wonderful Mary Beth Donnelly agreed, saying, this song is a little gem. Sean Murphy, the creator of the brilliant Tom Petty Trail website, says, since his death, this song has spoken to me like it previously did not, which I find, hugely relatable. There are always songs in an artist's catalogue which seem to resonate even more after their passing, and I could see how this one would be one of those for so many people. Former guest and all-round awesome person, Nora Hayward Olsen, said, on an album that could verge on being cynical, the sweet songs give it the right balance from becoming so. It's not a typical love song in the vein of, everything is perfect now that I've met you, but more of, I'm laying my cards on the table. This is who I am, warts and all. I can't promise it will be a smooth ride, but I do promise to do the best I can and get through life together. And this is the crux of it, isn't it, Nora? It's a song that has a real relationship between two real people at its core. Sally Alexander, who I believe might be a first-time commenter, responded, I love this song. Although they are a true rock and roll band, Tom has written and sung many ballads, and I think they do them very well. This one, I love. And man, were they ever a true rock and roll band, eh? I was listening to, I think, discs 2 and 3 of the Fillmore box set again yesterday, and that love of the form of rock and roll just absolutely pours out of them. JP Kaufman replied, it's the kind of song you feel was always around. A timeless song, hard to pinpoint to an era. Now that you pointed out the likeness to another song, perhaps the familiarity is partly why I felt this way. I really loved the social media comments on Blue Sunday in this pod, Kevin. It sounds like you've got some new listeners who are very passionate about Tom's music. I hope they go back and listen to your pod on previous albums, adding comments and contributions on Facebook we can peruse. Well, thanks as always for listening, JP. And yeah, I think we seem to maybe be picking up a few more regular listeners and starting to see some more people commenting, and long may that continue, because the more the merrier, I say. Tom White makes the following call, saying, Clubhouse version, 10. Album version, 7 to 9. And as I said during the episode, we'll get to the Clubhouse version in probably, well, it might be a couple of years at this rate, but it really is a great version, and I don't know how hard I'd argue with Tom on it being a 10. Maybe it is. We'll see when we get there. Executive producer Paul Roberts agreed with Tom and finishes out our social media saying, great pod, Kev. Well, thanks as always, Paul. In my honest opinion, the weakest song on the last DJ, but definitely not filler. This is more a statement of how high the bar has been set. It sort of gets lost in the majesty of side 2. I'd say an 8, but agree that the Clubhouse version is superior. And I basically sort of agree with Paul here, I think. It feels wrong to use the word weak on anything from this record, so maybe we can say least excellent or least good or something and wait for the angry letters to come flooding in. No, I'm just kidding. You folks are way too cool to be upset about an opinion, so yeah, I think I agree, Paul. Okay, well, that's all for social media this week. Thanks, as always, for your feedback. Again, love reading it, love digging into it, and I enjoy reading it out on the show. So if you are a new listener, give us some feedback. It's good to be part of the conversation. This week, we're digging into one of my very favourite petty deep cuts, and one I like to pull out for people who want to hear a completely different side of Tom. It's the man who loves women. In Conversations with Tom Petty, when author Paul Zollo asks about this song and says it reminds him of George Harrison, Tom says, "Yes, I actually wrote it on a ukulele that he gave me. George taught me to play the ukulele, and he taught me a lot of cool chords and inversions on it." And when Paul comments George was playing one all the time, wasn't he? Tom confirms, yeah, he was mad about them, loved them. Now, when you listen to this one, if you follow the official Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers social media accounts on any platform, you'll likely have seen the brilliant video of Tom cracking up George Draculius by messing around with the ukulele. If not, give this a listen and pay attention to the strumming pattern because you'll definitely have heard it before.
Some of these things don't really translate to the uke that well.
Some lend themselves to the uke.
Some do lend themselves to the uke. Don't do me like that. Don't do me like that. I'm a crazy cat, so don't do me like that.
So, first of all, if you haven't actually seen this, there's a link in the episode notes, and the twinkle in Tom's eye as he's cracking up his friend is just joyous, and you can tell that he finds it just as funny as George does. You also get a strong sense that the man who loves women basically comes out of this loose, playful type of jam that Tom would fall into when he was making up joke songs or silly little stories with his guitar or ukulele. This one just happened to become a full song on an album. When the song comes in, it's on the uke, and with that same strumming pattern, accompanied by Steve Ferroni on the hi-hats. The pattern is simply played through for 6.5 bars, and yes, it's a half because the beats in the piano come in on the 3 of the 7th bar, so already we're off to a quirky start here. Mike Campbell is playing the bass on this track, and he and Ben Montench are in lockstep, both playing the root notes of the chord progression, Ben Mont in a couple of octaves below middle C. The groove's almost a 2/4, sort of two-step, but where the changes are, I definitely count it as a straight 4. In addition to the straight backbeat that Ferroni's playing on the kick and snare, he's swinging the hats to give the song a really jaunty cadence. He's the man who loves women. Women, women, women. He's the man who loves women and falling in love every day. A ridiculously simple lyric, and one that sets up for me it's the kind of character who isn't really a sort of a despicable womanizer, who cheats on or hurts women, but has that sort of 1950s, 60s pencil mustache, smoking jacket, that immaculate patter, roguishness. There's an old English actor actually named Leslie Phillips who I always think of when I listen to this. The immaculately slicked back hair, cat-like movements, and that sort of the charm and elegance to burn. The kind of gentleman who can actually kiss a woman's hand and have it be courteous rather than creepy. When he sees a senorita, it's a sure thing that he'll meet her. He's the man who loves women and falling in love every day. This affirms the sense that this guy isn't exactly he's not a cad and a bounder, just one who falls in love with every woman he sees. And I think most of us has come across someone like that in our lives. So we know what type of character Tom's describing here. At the end of this second verse, we get that wonderful "hey," and the song turns around into the second section, which sees Tom's vocal doubled and the introduction of a cowbell. There's also what sounds like an organ part with a ton of tremolo on it that's mixed down deep, down low, as well as a high register piano part that comes in on the even number bars. We also have some beautifully textured background vocals laid into the mix, and the song here tells the story of the next day from the point of view of this guy's latest dalliance. But in the morning, when she wakes up, he'll be far away, keeping his secrets safe. Or I guess it's like a bird's eye view. But again, this is not a man built for a long-term relationship, or certainly not at this point in his life. The end of this section to transition into the solo is another little sleight of counting hand. You get 3.5 bars here, so again, Tom is playing with the flow of the song to give it character without beating you over the head with it. It almost matches the restless pursuit of the antagonist in the song. He can't wait too long in one place before finding a new love of his life to bring into his amorous crosshairs. The guitar solo when it comes in is a seriously flirty piece of business, rammed through a tremolo and probably some slight phase or something to give it a warbling vintage sound. You can only really hear this solo in black and white, not glorious Technicolor. It feels like a throwback to those old 50s rock and roll records where the solos were kept short and simple. There's also a nice short call and response between a whistled part and the guitar in the third bar to really add a sense of fun and levity to the whole piece. Coming out of the solo, we go back into the second section, and you'll notice I haven't used the words verse or chorus yet, but don't worry, we'll get into that. The organ part that I mentioned earlier comes back in a little more noticeably, doubling the piano line. It could also be a Chamberlin rather than an organ because it has a similar reedy quality, but I think more likely it's a Vox Continental. It could be the Farfisa, but it sounds more like that Vox kind of, that reedy tone you sometimes get from a Vox. Whatever it is, it's a great little colour to just bring briefly into the mix and add that dash of spice to this section. Coming out of it, though, we get this absolutely fantastic key change. The song is in the People's Key, C, with this minor key section alternating between A minor and E minor, then C and G, but then we hit that B7. So a little bit of unpacking here. That alternation in the chords is between C and G, but the bass note alternation is C and B, with B being the major third in the chord of G. So to then actually switch to the chord of B7 is a really nice bit of business before we get all being for the benefit of Mr. Kite with that fabulous organ part now taking the lead over top of Tom's rhythmic vocal stabs. Babe, 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 I love you. And again, then we get this progression that steps back up from F to G before resolving back down to the root. It's an absolutely fantastic bridge section, or maybe second bridge section, that carries us back to the main progression in the song, in which we have more organ and additional piano from Benmont Tench. There's a distinct vaudevillian music hall feel to this whole affair, which will tie in completely with who I think the inspiration for this song clearly is. Alrighty folks, it's time for some petty trivia. Your question from last week was this: which rock and roller officiated the wedding of Tom and Dana Petty at their Malibu home in June of 2001? Was it A, Little Richard, B, Roger McGuinn, C, Del Shannon, or D, Bo Diddley? Well, I think this one was a little bit of a softball for the petty heads amongst you. And obviously, Bo Diddley shares a hometown with Tom, and the Heartbreakers covered many of Bo's songs in their live sets over the years. Roger McGuinn was, of course, a big influence on the Heartbreakers, and Tom recorded King of the Hill with McGuinn, which appeared on his album Back from Rio in 1991. Also reached number 2 on the US mainstream rock chart. Tom also co-wrote the first track on Del Shannon's 1991 album, Rock On, which was released posthumously after Shannon tragically took his own life in February 1990. So your answer is A, Little Richard. It's entirely fitting that the man who Tom cited as the king of rock and roll would officiate Tom's second marriage to Dana York, and anyone who's seen the photos of that ceremony can see the joy and spirit that Little Richard brings to the occasion. Your question for this week is this: how old was Little Richard when he made his first recordings for RCA Camden Records at the studios of Atlanta, Georgia radio station WGST? Is it A, 17, B, 18, C, 19, or D, you guessed it, 20? Okay, back to the song. He's quite prepared to mingle, comes on like he's single. He's the man who loves women, and fallen in love's just his way. So, we're left ever so slightly unsure in this section about whether this guy actually may be in a committed relationship, but simply put, someone with this type of personality probably is incapable of ever fully committing to someone else. because, as Tom tells us, falling in love's just his way. But as Tom also reminds us, that may just be his way, but these types of shenanigans often end with recriminations. But one of these days, he's going to pay for falling in love every day. It's Tom balancing out the moral ambiguity of his central character by neither backing him nor really throwing him under the bus, but rather stepping back and giving us a three-dimensional commentary on his behaviour and its likely outcomes. We then get this crazy outro with Steve Ferroni laying into the kick drum and crash cymbal, Ben Montench playing a deliberately erratic, sometimes dissonant multi-layered keyboard part that almost threatens to completely fall off the rails, yet somehow clings on to some sort of structure. "Oh, stay away, he's the man who loves women," is the refrain of the backing vocals sing as Ferroni starts to attack the snare and the piano moves up into higher registers and more background vocals swirl into the mix. It's an onslaught of additions to take us into the rat-a-tat-tat-tat-tat big stop ending, which drops onto the root note on the piano, and then the bicycle bell. Absolutely marvellous. Right, let's talk about structure as I like to do on this podcast. I don't think this song actually has a chorus. You could break those 4 lines into verse-chorus. "He's the man who loves women, 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 women," could be the verse, and "He's the man who loves women and falling in love every day," could be the chorus, but they play out over the same 4 chords in the same tempo, same arrangement, same instrumentation, etc. So to me, it's one section. It's not A and B. But in the morning when she wakes up section comes in, everything about that screams bridge to me. And sure, we also get that wild key change keyboard solo as a second bridge, but nothing about this song says verse chorus to me. So it's almost as if this song is verse, verse, bridge, solo, bridge, bridge 2, verse, outro. It's a very atypical structure for a short, bouncy little ditty, and it has strange counts in several places, and it's one of the reasons that I really, really love this song. It's interesting. Anything that's musically interesting is always going to grab me. Now, in last week's outro, I'd intimated that I hear a strong resemblance between this song and another favourite band of mine, the Kinks. So first of all, just sonically, if it walks like the Kinks and it kind of quacks like the Kinks, it's most likely inspired by the Kinks. That super cool B7 key change to that second bridge, then those background vocals owe absolutely as much to the type of sharp left turns that Ray Davies would often write into his songs as it does to the Sgt. Pepper nod that I gave during my commentary. So growing up in England, there's a really nostalgic end of the pier quality to this song, and it's that thing that Ray and the Kinks were unparalleled at evoking in a contemporary way. Another reason I draw a straight line back to them is the song Dedicated Follower of Fashion. Ray and Tom could easily be writing about exactly the same person. It's the same sort of playboy dandy who flitted around London's West End, soaking up the fashion and prowling the bars along the King's Road. It's that same type of high fashion Lothario that we're dealing with in both songs, and as I love Dedicated Follower, this spiritual continuation of that idea 36 years later is very, very satisfying. Okay, Pettyheads, that's it for this week. Look, I can't give this a 10 out of 10 because it's a fun, frivolous bit of light relief on a densely packed, narratively thematic album, but man, if it doesn't get my toes tapping, my teeth grinning, and my head bobbing. It's one of those songs that, in Ultimate Catalog Clash, one of my other podcasts, we sort of go through and we rate songs on music, lyrics, and production, and we try to give them sort of objective scores. But then we also say, but out of 10, do I love the song out of 10? Where does it rank in terms of my enjoyment of it? Well, what we call that is the Haskin scale. On a Haskin scale, this is a straight 10. But I don't think I can go for a 10. It's a perfect ukulele song with dashingly brilliant keyboards added by Ben Montench and a playful yet nuanced lyric sitting over top of it. Like I said, it's musically very interesting and not quite as simple as the Heartbreakers make it seem. And I already said it's one of my favourite Petty deep cuts. Go tell me why I'm wrong on Facebook, because I'm going to give The Man Who Loves Women a questionably high 8 out of 10. The Tom Petty Project is a proud member of the Boneless Podcasting Network, which is a loose collective of podcasting friends and acquaintances brought together and championed by the inimitable Chaz Charles. Go check out the roster by clicking on the link in the episode notes. You can also check out my other podcast, Seaside Pod Review, Queen podcast, that I co-host with my best pal, Randy Woods. And you can also check out the Ultimate Catalog Clash that I co-host with my great pal, Corey Morissette. We just released a Christmas episode, and we're getting into the tail end of wrapping up our Season 7 on the Black Crows. Also, you should check out Rock Court, a show that I'm doing with Corey Morissette, Chaz Charles, the aforementioned Chaz Charles, and Michael Pastore, that is examining which musical movement had the longer-lasting legacy or longer-lasting impact on music. Was it the Sunset Strip, or was it the new wave of British heavy metal? That's been insane, but it's a good laugh, and you should go listen to it. Don't forget to follow me on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and YouTube at The Tom Petty Project, and on Blue Sky at Tom Petty Project. Go follow, like, subscribe as applicable, and please leave a review or a rating if you haven't done that already. Keep talking to me on social media, and especially if you're new, drop us a line, and I'll keep reading out your comments on the show. As your weekly reminder, the Tom Petty Project is not affiliated with the Tom Petty Estate in any way, so if you're looking for Tom's music, go buy it from a bricks and mortar store, give your money to a local business and help them stay afloat, or go to official streaming platforms. If you're looking for official merchandise, go to tompetty.com, and if you're looking for merch for this show, go to tompettyproject.com. Don't forget to check out the Tom Petty Nation and Tom Petty Fans Forever groups on Facebook, and make sure you check out Tom Petty Radio on Channel 31 on Sirius XM. Until we meet again next week, keep listening to and sharing Tom's music. Try to be kind. Try to say I love you to someone at least once a day. Stay safe and healthy, and I'll be back with you next week to talk about the brilliant Have Love, Will Travel. Bye-bye.